Coming up this half hour, the final stretch for Edwards and Kerry before New York votes on Super Tuesday. An NYU dorm is going to the dogs, and as we'll find out, that's a good thing. And you may think it's all good to be on the NYU women's basketball team, but it's not a piece of cake. Also, an update on the chaos in Haiti. All of that and more now on NYU Tonight.
Good evening.
You're watching the Thursday, February 26th edition of NYU Tonight. I'm Erik McKenna.
And I'm Liz Sabbia. Haitian rebels marched towards Haiti's capital of Port-au-Prince today, and we are waiting for the order to attack. As the uprising intensifies, more pressure has been mounted on President Bertrand Aristide to resign. But First Lady Mildred Aristide says it's important for her husband to stay and finish his term.
I will be here. The president, as he said and has repeatedly said, he strongly believes that what's at stake here is not the continuation of his 2-year mandate, but really a fundamental issue of democracy. The population has elected freely a president, and so it's imperative that the president remain and to complete his term.
Meanwhile, the U.S. and other countries are trying to reach an agreement between the Haitian government and opposition groups. The rebels, however, are not giving up their demand for Aristide's resignation. Haitian refugees are desperately trying to reach U.S. shores as the situation in Haiti spirals nearer the chaos. The Coast Guard reports that over 500 Haitians have been caught heading for Florida on ships and are now receiving food, water, and medical treatment. One Filipino vessel is under investigation to determine if it was hijacked. Florida Governor Jeb Bush says he does not want to give safe harbor to Haitians who get aboard the ships using violence.
Hijackers? They should be sent back to Haiti.
Bush, meanwhile, went further, affirming that it is official U.S. policy to turn back any Haitian refugees trying to escape to America.
Iraq's top Shiite cleric issued a statement calling for elections by year's end. Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani demanded a fixed date for elections in order to prevent further delays. The statement is al-Sistani's first public comment since UN Secretary General Kofi Annan ruled out a vote by June 30th, when the U.S. is expected to return sovereignty to the Iraqis. And just how much more involved should the U.S. be in rebuilding Iraq? This issue was at the heart of a debate held on campus last Friday, and as might be expected, there was no shortage of emotion. Isha Mehta has more.
For me, the solution is to stop the occupation, to withdraw the troops, to permit the Iraqi people to determine their own future. They will make their own mistakes, but that is the only way out.
Should the U.S. stay in the Middle East? Most people at Friday's debate didn't think so. The majority of this crowd came to support Tariq Ali's leftist views.
This is something people tend not to understand, especially in this country, is that most occupied peoples do not like being occupied.
With or without crowd support, however, Gideon Rose stood his ground and defended his position.
By and large, the Bush administration's mistakes have been ones of competence rather than intention, and can be solved by better and more American engagement with Iraq and the region rather than less.
Mr. Ali didn't have to work too hard to win over the crowd.
Now we have a situation where the United States is bogged down in a war. Several thousand Iraqis have died. Their lives don't seem to matter in this country, but they do matter in that world and the rest of the world.
So where were all of Gideon Rose's supporters?
I guess they don't bother to show up to debates. They only like it when the power's in their hands.
I really don't know where they are, but I'm glad they're not here. I don't think there are that many people who actually support the occupation of the United States, and therefore they haven't shown up tonight in any numbers whatsoever.
For NYU Tonight, this is Isha Mehta.
North Korea offered a promise of nuclear disarmament in return for a U.S. assurance of security today at a news conference in Beijing. A spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry said the communist nation proposed a comprehensive halt to its nuclear activities, but did not say if it included those activities used to generate energy. It is not clear if the proposal meets the U.S.'s demand for a complete dismantling of North Korea's nuclear program. The announcement came 2 days after talks in Beijing over Pyongyang's nuclear program. Civil rights lawyer Jeremiah Gutman, who testified in the Martha Stewart case, died yesterday after a heart attack. Gutman was called as a defense witness in the Martha Stewart trial on Monday by lawyers for Stewart's co-defendant, Peter Bukanovic. Gutman testified about advice he gave to his former client, the government's star witness Douglas Faneuil, at the beginning of the investigation into Stewart's sale of her ImClone stock. Closing arguments for the case will be heard Monday and Tuesday. Gutman was 80 years old at the time of his death.
The self-proclaimed king of all media, Howard Stern, is fuming after his radio program was yanked from the air today in cities across the country. The nation's largest radio conglomerate, Clear Channel, announced Stern's suspension from its airwaves during a congressional hearing yesterday. Clear Channel Radio Department Head John Hogan.
And I hope that the subcommittee will understand that the Bubbas of the world and the Howard Sterns of the world are the exception rather than the rule, and that they will no longer have a platform on our stations.
The final straw was a caller to Stern's Tuesday show who used the N-word on the air. Stern himself is bashing the move to all fans still able to hear him. He told his diminished audience today that his critics are so afraid of me and what this show represents. Former TV talk show host Rosie O'Donnell married her girlfriend Kelly Carpenter today in San Francisco. The nuptials come 2 days after President Bush called for a constitutional amendment banning gay marriage. The outspoken Emmy winner had choice words for W.
We already did. We got married. There you go. I'd just like to say that we didn't really have any comments prepared. We were both inspired to come here after the sitting president said the vile and vicious and hateful comments he did on Tuesday. It inspired myself, my brand new wife, and myself to fly here this morning. We left New York at 5 a.m. We're getting on a plane in about 1 hour because tomorrow it's Parent Day at our kids' school.
The union of a man and a woman is the most enduring human institution. Those were the words of President Bush Wednesday as he began his push for a constitutional amendment that would ban gay marriage. This issue has sparked political fury on both sides. Democrats fired back by saying Bush is attempting to write discrimination into the Constitution, while conservatives disagreed with Bush's position to at least allow legal civil unions for same-sex couples. But the road to successfully passing a constitutional amendment is not an easy one to traverse. A two-thirds majority of both the House and the Senate have to sign off on it, and 38 of the 50 states then have to ratify it. Not counting the Bill of Rights, the Constitution has only been amended 17 times in U.S. history.
With 4 candidates remaining and 30 states to hold primaries, the race for the Democratic nomination is reaching a showdown. The Democratic hopefuls will face off tonight in a debate in Los Angeles that will be moderated by Larry King on CNN at 9 o'clock. This will be the last time Senators John Kerry and John Edwards, Congressman Dennis Kucinich, and Reverend Al Sharpton will meet before next week's Super Tuesday, in which 1,151 delegates are up for grabs, the most delegates of the primary season. Among the states voting are Minnesota, Vermont, Georgia, Rhode Island, and Ohio. Do you know the other 5 states voting on Tuesday? California, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, and New York will also be holding caucuses. In order to capture the nomination, a candidate must win 2,161 delegates. Kerry, coming from his wins Tuesday in Idaho, Hawaii, and Utah, has 748 delegates, 3 times as many as Edwards, 240. Polls show Democratic frontrunner Kerry with strong leads over Edwards, his closest rival in the 4 largest states holding primaries next week. The latest field poll in California showed Kerry with a 40-point lead over Edwards in California. A poll by the American Research Group put Kerry ahead of Edwards by 20 points in Ohio, while his lead in Georgia was only 8 points. In New York State, where Democrats outweigh Republicans 4-1, Kerry shows no sign of letting up on his large lead. According to a Quinnipiac University poll, Kerry leads Edwards 60 to 21%. But even with his near 40-point lead, Kerry isn't taking the Democrat-heavy state for granted. This week, he met with longtime Congressman Charles Rangel in Harlem, raised money on Park Avenue, and spoke about job losses in the outer boroughs. Senator Kerry's popularity continued to soar in the Empire State. This morning, he received the endorsement of the New York Times, who said the Massachusetts senator exudes maturity and depth. Kerry also picked up the endorsement of former Senator John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth, while he was campaigning in Ohio yesterday. Georgia voters might have trouble getting to the polls next week. A late winter storm hit much of the state, blanketing the region in snow, causing power outages, accidents, and school cancellations. Hopefully the weather will improve in the South next week when the candidates will begin campaigning for the March 9th primaries, called Southern Tuesday. It will be the second largest contest of the primary season, with delegate-rich states like Florida and Texas.
NYU President John Sexton says sorry. For that story and more, here's Ryan McGuinness with tonight's NYU Focus. Ryan?
Thanks, Eric. Greek life at NYU is moving on down to Lafayette Street. In an email sent yesterday, Vice President for Student Affairs Mark Weiss approved the Greek community's request to relocate from their present locations at 3rd North, Palladium, and Broome Street to the Lafayette Street residence. This comes after NYU decided to convert 3rd North into an all-freshman residence hall starting this fall. 4 penthouses have been allotted to accommodate the Greeks. Power to Tisch Hall, Bopes Library, and Warren Weaver Hall went out yesterday just before 2 p.m., causing fire alarms to go off. A malfunction in a water pump's motor caused the outage. Power was restored to each of the buildings within an hour. No injuries were reported. They're all over the city, and now there's one right in our own backyard. Here's Rena Faruya and NYU's 4-pawed freshman.
Dogs are undeniably man's best friends. While most give unconditional love, there's some that give so much more.
A friend of the family is a blind girl who's going to university, and she got a dog, and that enabled her to go to university. She wouldn't have been able to go without her dog, Charlie.
According to the University of Arizona, 90% of dog owners got their canines because they wanted someone to play with. For only 9 out of 1,000 disabled people, their dogs aren't just their pets. For them, their dogs are their lifeline to independence.
NYU Stern senior Jonathan Gerber is giving up his time to train a guide dog named Lex. After a year and a half of petitioning, he is the first student to have a dog in the dorms.
The university wasn't so thrilled about the idea of me bringing in Lex, just because it's a new idea and it had never been done before. But once they did their research and they gave it some thought, the university was very receptive to it.
Like all freshmen, Lex needs an ID to get around campus. But for him, it's his yellow cape.
Lex is wearing a yellow cape, which demarcates him as a service dog. And when he's got that on, he's got to behave differently.
This is only one part of the basic training Lex receives from Gerber. Lex will also learn how to do laundry, get food from the fridge, and turn light switches on and off.
Lex has made me into a single dad, basically. Yeah, I've got to worry about feeding him and putting him to bed.
But for Gerber, the hardest part will be giving up Lex in a year. Then it'll be Lex's turn to take care of someone who needs him even more. For NYU Tonight, I'm Rena Faruya.
You should be angry at me. That's the message NYU President John Sexton sent to students last night at the town hall meeting. He apologized for the short notice regarding the new housing deposit policy. The deposit date was moved up to avoid having students who aren't certain they want housing next year from taking the places of students who need it. Sexton pointed out that the cause of the short notice was a lack of communication between the housing and residence education offices, but defended them, saying they are usually well organized and efficient. The first deposit of $500 is due this Monday, and the second deposit is due in June. Tonight is senior night for the class of 2004 at Fiddlesticks on Greenwich Avenue. Starting at 9 p.m., seniors can enjoy free appetizers, drink specials, and, of course, some socializing with fellow classmates. The event is sponsored by the CAS Student Council, the Office of the Vice President for Student Affairs, and the University Development and Alumni Relations Office. So get down there. I'm Ryan McGuinness. Back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Could the Columbine tragedy have been prevented? An investigation into the nation's deadliest school shooting revealed that Jefferson County sheriffs had at least 15 contacts with teenage killers Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold as early as 2 years before the massacre. Officials had received a tip that led them to the killer's website, which said the two had built pipe bombs. Colorado Attorney General Ken Salazar said he's investigating whether authorities tried to cover up their knowledge of the killers. However, he isn't blaming local officials for missing the warning signs about Harris and Klebold. In 1999, the pair killed 12 students and a teacher before taking their own lives. The Port Authority will reportedly unveil a temporary memorial for the 1993 bombing victims of the World Trade Center. The new site comes 11 years after a truck bomb exploded in front of the World Trade Center, killing 6 people. The New York Times reports that officials will present their proposal to the victims' families at a breakfast marking the anniversary. The original memorial was destroyed in the second attack on the World Trade Center. As of now, no definite location has been chosen for the marker. Was the UN being bugged leading up to the Iraq War? According to a former British cabinet minister, British spies were listening in on phone conversations by UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. Annan's spokesman says people should assume their conversations with him are kept private and spying would be illegal under international conventions.
Media reports alleging that the Secretary General's phone conversations were tapped by British intelligence. We would be disappointed if this were true. Such activities would undermine the integrity and confidential nature of diplomatic exchanges.
But these accusations of spying have not yet been confirmed, and the UN is still looking into it. Here now with today's Money Matters and other business news is Jeannie Fernandez. Jeannie?
There's a reason they call Social Security the third rail of American politics. Touch it and you die. So when Fed Chairman Alan Greenspan raised the issue yesterday by suggesting future benefit cuts, both President Bush and John Kerry responded half-heartedly. This is a political hot potato that can cause a candidate real heartburn during a major campaign. The Olympic rings rekindled their marriage with the Golden Arches. McDonald's signed a new 8-year deal to sponsor the Olympics today. The deal will ramp up the company's global approach to advertising and make a big push into China ahead of the 2008 Beijing Games. McDonald's hopes the Beijing sponsorship will catch it up with rival KFC, which owns more than twice as many food outlets in China. The new contract is the longest since McDonald's became an official Olympic sponsor during the 1976 Summer Games in Montreal. And here's a look at today's closing numbers. The S&P gained 1.25 points, and the NASDAQ was up by 9.5 points today. The Dow Jones closed down 21.5 points. If you think there are a lot of cell phone users, brace yourself. According to the CEO of Nokia, half of the world's population, approximately 4 billion people, will be using cell phones in the next decade. But Nokia knows that with an increase in users is an increase in competition. So last year they decided to team up with IBM, and now they have created a phone that will appeal to the traveling businessman. Along with access to corporate email and messaging, the Communicator will provide services worldwide. The Communicator can now be bought at specific phone dealers around the city. And that's all for your business news. I'm Jeannie Fernandez. Eric, back to you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Well, we all know that children have superheroes. They fight, they fly, they beat the bad guys. But when it comes to comic books, it isn't just the children who are the biggest followers. To find out just who's doing the buying, reporter James Nubel looks at one local comic book store in the East Village.
Superman, Batman, X-Men. They're familiar faces of comic book superheroes that saved the world, and adults like 45-year-old Richard Amundo are the ones lining up to get their hands on their favorite titles.
I know the day that the new comics come out, and I usually try to be here when that happens.
And it happens at St. Mark's Comics, where people like Amundo can enjoy their hobby. Manager Matthew McGee says the store's secret to success is all in the memories.
Comics sell, new, old. Certain people looking for stuff that reminds them of their childhood. Certain people buy the new stuff regularly.
This one, number 77.
And for 35-year-old Huey Love, comics remind him of just that.
Oh, yo! They got the Silver Surfer. Well, you know I'm buying this one. My father bought me comic books and all those big words, intergalactic, interstellar, interdimensional, and all these things that little kids are going, what? I learned how to read those at the age of 5. 77, 2 and 4.
But not all memories are good. Owner Mitch Cutler explains that some adults are buying comics because their hobby got interrupted.
They're trying to put together a collection they lost as a kid. My mom threw mine out.
And why did Mom throw them out? She probably thought comics were silly and immature.
It's entertainment. It's good, fun entertainment.
I think to each his own, but you make your money, you earn it, you do what you want to do with it that makes you happy, right or wrong. So.
For NYU Tonight, this is James Noble.
And now with some of the stories hitting the sports world today, we go now to Emmanuel Bustos.
Thanks, Eric. The foul ball that crushed the Cubs' hopes last October will be obliterated by a special effects expert on live television tonight. The ball bashing is being done to bring some closure to one of the most painful losses in the Chicago Cubs' doleful history. The ball will be sent into oblivion by Michael Lantieri, an Oscar winner who wrecks things for a living. Lantieri, a Cubs diehard himself, would not reveal his exact demolition plans, but admitted he has been blowing up a dozen balls a day in his California lab in preparation. Star NFL running back Jamal Lewis surrendered to police today. He's facing federal charges of assisting a childhood friend by cocaine in the summer of 2000. The Baltimore Ravens player was taken into custody at the FBI office in Atlanta. Prosecutors said Lewis met the childhood friend and a woman who turned out to be a police informant at a restaurant to discuss the drug buy more than 3 years ago. The Pro Bowler pleaded not guilty. If convicted, he could face 10 years to life in prison. Not even soccer stars David Beckham and Roberto Carlos could help the heavily favored Real Madrid defeat champions Bayern Munich in the first knockout round in the UEFA Champions League. Olympiastadion soccer stadium in Munich, Germany was sold out as the game seemed to end goalless until the 75th minute when Raul Bravo sent a well-timed cross into the middle where McKay was waiting and scored. Bayern was confident of their win until the 83rd minute when Roberto Carlos blasted a free kick right by German goalkeeper Oliver Kahn to tie the game at 1 apiece. Now here's a look at the standings for the UEFA Champions League. The Minnesota Timberwolves hand Nets coach his first career loss. Lawrence Frank had the best coaching start in pro sports history at 13-0. In his first start of the season, Troy Hudson, in for an injured Sam Cassell, scored a high-end 29 points, ending the Nets' 14-game winning streak. As NYU Tonight previously reported, Dance Dance Revolution is becoming a sport in Norway, but many people are joining the revolution to get in shape. Here I am getting my dance on. In just 1 hour of playing DDR, it is possible for a person to burn 640 calories, compared to only burning 501 calories jogging. If this is combined with good dieting habits, the results can be phenomenal. Just like Tana Jessel from Seattle, who lost 95 pounds playing DDR alone. For more information on her story, go to getupmove.com. February is National Girls and Women's in Sports Month. In commemoration of this, we took a look at one of our very own women's teams, the varsity basketball team. Elizabeth Yoon reports.
It's really not for the weak-minded. It's really not for the weak, period. It's a very, very tough thing to do to maintain the academics at a school like NYU.
The women's basketball team here at NYU is hard at work as it is trying to make another appearance in the NCAA championships this year. But it's not only on the courts where their diligence is shown. As students, these women are still committed to their studies.
When you're here, all you can do is school and basketball. So like a lot of your other, like your social life, as far as she's concerned, is non-existent.
Lauren D'Ambrosio, one of the team's guards, recently tied the career three-point record and also hit her 1,000th point. But it's not only on the courts where she's been busy. Other responsibilities have kept her occupied. So how does she juggle all of her responsibilities?
Time management, I mean, from being a freshman till now has completely changed.
And head coach Janice Quinn constantly reminds her athletes of their responsibilities as students.
Being able to do two things that are very difficult at the same time is, of course, very difficult. There are no tricks.
It's not an easy life to live, but these women are committed and determined. To ease the pressure of it all, they try to smile and just have fun out on the hardwood.
It's been like a real sense of family since like the minute my freshman year that I was here. And then it becomes even more tight-knit as you get into your individual team.
For NYU Tonight, this is Elizabeth Yoon.
I'm Richard Tekneci. The NCAA basketball tournament is just around the corner. March Madness, the most exciting sporting event other than the Super Bowl. There are always surprises. You never know which team will win. There will be buzzer beaters and Cinderellas like Gonzaga a few years ago. It's a time when you see athletes competing for the title. It's not like the NBA or Major League Baseball, where athletes care more about the money than winning a championship. College hoops is all about pride and heart. Most of these guys won't be seen in the NBA. However, the NCAA tournament gives an opportunity for these kids to be in the spotlight. You'll see young stars that made the right decision by staying in school. Not only do they get an education, but they also get to showcase their skills on the national stage. At this time in the NBA, players that would have left early would probably be sitting on the bench. Sorry, Darko. Warming it up for the players competing in a game that has been noted more for individual success and money than teamwork. Money is not what it should be all about. This is why the college basketball championship offers people relief from the greedy players in the NBA. Unlike the NBA, these games in the NCAA tournament are one-game elimination games, which makes it more exciting. This means that teams will give their all in one game. Yes, there's more talent in the NBA, but talent doesn't mean a game is great. What's great is seeing these kids play hard, and they can, for one goal, and one goal only, winning a championship. This is Richard Tekneci with tonight's commentary. Now back to you guys.
Thanks, Richard. Most conventions may seem strictly business, but Brooks Hornsby brings you something a little more unconventional.
Tattoos, an art form that started over 3,000 years ago, but today seems to have a bad rep.
Tattoos, I wouldn't personally get them, and I really think they're wrong for people to get them because I know they'll regret it later in life.
But Philadelphia Eddie's Tattoo Arts Convention may have broadened some people's definition of tattoo artist. This year, 60 artists are tattooing here. Many others display their art, both abstract and 3D. And art was what people wanted. Most customers browse through artists' portfolios before deciding where to go. All artists must observe state health regulations, such as using disposable ink and wearing gloves at all times. Most customers get custom work drawn up before putting anything permanently on their bodies. But why do people get tattooed?
Because it's like I'm walking around with all these beautiful things on my body that I love. It's like a living charm bracelet on my body.
These charms brought much publicity, from ABC to the young and the young at heart. For NYU Tonight, I'm Brooks Hornsby.
From ABC's Prince Charming to the Oscars, here's Ariel Fish with the latest in arts and entertainment.
Thank you. Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ opened to mixed reviews last night. With entire theaters sold out across the country, moviegoers left feeling overwhelmed by the experience. The highly anticipated film sparked controversy from both Christians and Jews alike for its graphic depiction of the death of Christ. From the silver screen to the red carpet, he's the most popular guy in Tinseltown. That's right, it's Oscar time. The 76th Academy Awards ceremony will take place this Sunday at the Kodak Theater in Los Angeles, California. As the actresses contemplate their barely there outfits and the actors tailor their tuxes, the envelopes are being sealed with those lucky enough to take home the Gold Man. And the nominees are, for Best Picture, Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, Mystic River, Lost in Translation, Seabiscuit, and Master and Commander, The Far Side of the World. For Best Actor, Sean Penn, Bill Murray, Johnny Depp, Ben Kingsley and Jude Law. Best Actress, Charlize Theron, Diane Keaton, Naomi Watt, Keisha Castle Hughes, and Samantha Morton. And my predictions are Lord of the Ring for Best Film, Sean Penn for Best Actor, and Charlize Theron for Best Actress. I'm Ariel Fish. Back to you.
And that does it for this edition of NYU Tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Erik McKenna.
I'm Liz Sabbia. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Night.